Look, it's recording. Can you see? Can you see? Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today we're going to talk about Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph Breaks the Internet. And this is little Soph. Hey, Soph. Say hey. You say hey? That's a microphone. Did you like the movie? Wreck-It Ralph?
Hello.
You don't know?
Hello.
Hello? Did you like seeing the movie Wreck-It Ralph 2? Ralph Breaks the Internet? Do you want your water?
No.
You say Wreck-It Ralph? Do you like seeing Moana?
Mama?
In Wreck-It Ralph 2? No.
Hello.
Hello!
No, hello.
No hello? Oh.
Oh.
No hello.
Hello.
Did you want to talk about Wreck-It Ralph?
Whoa.
Whoa! Wreck-It Ralph 2?
Whoa!
Whoa! Can Dada talk about Wreck-It Ralph?
Up.
Up? Like standing? So Sophie, it was her first big girl movie that wasn't a baby screening. Was Wreck-It Ralph 2. Right, Soph?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yes.
Are you just repeating?
No.
No. Okay. So we saw Wreck-It Ralph 2 together. Right, Sophie?
No.
You... What? We did! Do you want Dada to talk about Wreck-It Ralph 2?
No.
No! You mean yes?
No.
What? No! Why not? You don't want me to talk about Wreck-It Ralph 2?
No.
Why not?
Give me.
We're on TV. See? TV. TV. Little Soph.
No, Soph.
You're Soph. Are you baby or little Soph?
No, Soph. Baby Soph.
Baby Soph? Okay, sorry. Baby Soph. Sorry. Baby Soph. Right?
No, baby Soph.
No baby Soph. What, little Soph?
No, Soph.
Just Sophie?
No, Soph.
Oh, what do you want me to call you? Okay, so Wreck-It Ralph 2 is the latest. So, where are you going? Are you leaving? Okay. So, Wreck-It Ralph 2, I enjoyed the original Wreck-It Ralph, and I showed Sophie, don't worry. You saw first Wreck-It Ralph, right?
No.
Yes, you did! Don't lie to people. You saw Wreck-It Ralph, right?
No.
Yes. She did see Wreck-It Ralph. Sophie saw Wreck-It Ralph. The first one. This is hard to do when now you can say things. Did you know that?
No.
No?
What that?
So, Wreck-It Ralph 2 it's a sequel to the original 2012 film. What I think the first Wreck-It Ralph, and probably the problem with making a new Wreck-It Ralph, is that the first Wreck-It Ralph was kind of like all tied up pretty closely. It was all tied up pretty closely, where you had everything. Here, you want to see Soph? Hey, there's Soph.
Hi, Soph.
No, you're Soph.
No, Soph.
Are you saying hi to Soph?
No, hi, Soph.
No, hi, Soph.
Soph.
The problem with making a sequel is the first Wreck-It Ralph kind of tied things together pretty closely, and there's almost not necessarily a need story-wise.
Daddy.
Oh, you sat down. I didn't make you.
No.
Oh, you want to leave?
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily demand a sequel. There just kind of was a sequel, and so that's kind of the movie's biggest problem, I guess, is it's kind of trying to find sort of a reason for existing. It has been 6 years. Disney movies are pretty self-contained. There's not really a lot of loose threads to make a sequel on in general. That's kind of like one of their things, is they're pretty much self-contained stories, other than like Big Hero 6. Most of them you don't really need to make a sequel of. And Wreck-It Ralph is kind of like that. So starting off, the whole premise of the film is a bit flawed in general. It tries to kind of make this Vanellope's movie rather than Ralph's movie, but still wants Ralph to sort of be the main character while also it being about Vanellope. It kind of tries to have its cake and eat it too in that regard. The whole idea of Vanellope and Ralph going on the internet to get this wheel that has broken off of her arcade, which is also weird that like they like the only versions of these characters. Like, are there other versions of Ralph? You don't really get into that. They just exist within this one arcade, which we don't know what year it is or anything like that. But they go onto the internet and then they somehow are able to get money, which that doesn't really make a lot of sense, and buy this thing from eBay so they can get Vanellope back her arcade. But then she falls in love with this Fast and Furious like game and is really into that, and then meets the Disney princesses for like next to no reason, and Ralph gets angry at that because they're not best friends anymore. I don't think as a flow of a narrative it works as well, because it's just like a lot of little things that add up to be a Wreck-It Ralph 2. And that's really entertaining with the Disney princesses and the eBay stuff and the BuzzTube, which is weird that they acknowledge that YouTube definitely exists in this universe, but there's another video sharing site called BuzzTube, which I don't really like understand why do that. Like, you have Amazon, you have every brand in the world, but you need to have your own version of that. Was that a legal thing? Was YouTube like, we're not going to sign off on you like doing this with YouTube? But at the same time, like, making a BuzzTube feels like something you do when you couldn't get the brands to work with you, but you can get the brands to work with you, so I don't understand that whole thing. And it sort of does the thing that it's like super easy to make a viral video, which is like one of those things that I love. Hollywood writers, like, any fucking idiot can make one of these fucking viral things. It's like super easy. And I'm always like, have one of you guys made one? Like, not like with a celebrity doing something. Like, it's actually sort of insulting when you make videos all the time, when someone goes like, I don't know, just like fart on camera and it'll be 20 million views and I'll go viral. And you're like, hey buddy, no one really wants to see you fart, you're not that funny. But also, like, that's really obnoxious. I think sometimes in writing, if you have enough funny bits and they don't connect, and the script and the story don't necessarily work, you can kind of fake it. And I think Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet does that for a lot of the movie and sort of gets itself to work. But then by the end, you're sort of like, oh, what? This is about like bullying online or something, I guess, sort of. And you're like, I mean, I get where you're going with it. And I'm like, they're just kind of going with various online and kind of internet things. And it's like, I guess that's a thing we gotta talk about. But it didn't really like work because, like, I get that like Ralph is upset, which, by the way, like, rightfully so, you can be a little upset, which the film sort of doesn't explore as much, and how we found out was sort of a shitty way, which the film does sort of get into. I don't think that's the same as what happens to women on the internet as what happens to Vanellope, really. And a lot of the conclusion doesn't really work. I've heard many critics mention how that's like too scary for kids. I didn't find that way, and when I went with Sophie, she just walked around the theater at that point. Like, as soon as it got into the dark web and became less brightly colored, her interest level was like a lot lower. So it didn't really scare her. It was just like her walking around the theater, and no one was in the theater, so it wasn't actually disruptive. If you're gonna take a kid to a theater, I guess go on a weekday afternoon to a movie that's been out for 3 weeks. This is a great amount of writers, but the screenplay, which is by Phil Johnson and Pamela Ribden, but it's also a story by Jim Reardon, who wrote for The Simpsons, and Ralph Bakshi's Mighty Mouse, and you have Pamela Ribden and Phil Johnson and Rich Moore, who also directed the film, and Josie Trinidad. What this film is trying to do with the internet, I understand this is like maybe the better version of Emoji Movie, but it still felt like a version of that sort of idea, and that idea sucks. Like, it's not a good idea. It's not even like really how people understand the internet. And throwing in the Disney princesses, I mean, that's pretty much why I took my daughter to see it, because she loves Moana and Frozen, and I thought, hey, maybe she'll like be into this, and I would actually like to see Wreck-It Ralph too. But the Disney princess thing was not in it very long. It often felt like they had to each fill in a different line. Like, legally, they each got a certain amount of lines. Like, it was the Roger Rabbit, you know, Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse thing, or that part in The Expendables, the first one where it's like Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Stallone, and they kept cutting between them like crazy, and like each one saying a line, like legally they all had to have the same amount or something. And I find when people do that, like, I will say one of the things that Roger Rabbit did really well is he did all those things in like one shot. so it doesn't feel as jarring. But when you're cutting like crazy and there's all this movement and you're kind of overwhelmed by the fact that you never thought you'd see all these characters together in a real movie, it does feel jarring. Whereas in Roger Rabbit, there's oftentimes I'll watch Roger Rabbit and just think of the story, not think of the jarringness of Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse being on screen together. And I feel like this did the Expendables way, which is basically like, oh look, there's all these things, and you're like, cool, but like this feels like our hinging on is all these things, you know. There's like a narrative reason like Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny are in the shot together because they're in Toontown and stuff, and this it's like, oh my Disney, like, is that a site? I'm not gonna look it up because like who would go to Disney.com? Like, I've never heard of that. Never heard of anyone spending any significant time on that. But it was a cute thing. I've heard they're, like, if they feel the story's there, they'll make a Disney princess movie, which is like, yeah, sure, guys. I'm sure the story part is the thing that's holding you back. But it was, that part was cute. It was entertaining. I did notice Sophie was into that. Also, the only part, first thing I saw her laugh at was Ralph made a belching joke, and she thought that was funny, which I thought was funny. A lot of this movie was me watching the movie, watching her watch the movie, which was a lot of fun. But I don't like the idea of like this emoji movie version of basically like the internet are these various things, and like basically like a crappy mall internet or something, which I don't understand like the reasoning behind that. Like, I would like a different artistic version of the internet than what the Emoji Movie did, and this is just like sort of the same but not Emoji Movie, and you're like, neat. You got all those rip-offs of Star Wars after Star Wars came out. It's kind of fun to see like, oh well, like Black Hole isn't like Saturn 7. That's kind of neat. And in this it's like, oh cool, it's like the same but better, but still sucks. I do think this is an entertaining sequel, but it begs the question, I think, now that Disney has moved to the area that Pixar is sort of been in for a little bit, where it's like, let's just do sequels of things because people like that. I don't think they think about the Toy Story movies have like sort of fine narrative reasons to like, hey, well, what about when this kid gets older? And that's how you nail Toy Story 3, Toy Story 2. And that's why Toy Story 3 is like such an amazing classic, and Toy Story 2 just doesn't live up to that. Or Incredibles 2, I didn't like it, but it made more narrative sense. Finding Dory just doesn't, whatever. But, and same with Monsters University. And that's kind of the problem, is like, these are not written to be like Force Awakens, I'm like, oh, what's going to happen next? Or like a Marvel movie, and these aren't really written that way. So I sort of think like maybe they should find a way to narratively give us a reason. Like, I know they love to say, oh, when we find the story. And in this, it's like, you found a way to make this entertaining, and you had a good enough of a writing cast and good enough animators and good enough talent behind the mics to get this sort of to work. And you kind of willed it into its existence, you know, with having everyone from Bill Hader to John C. Reilly to Sarah Silverman to, you know, the entire voice cast of every Disney princess ever, to like Taraji B. Henson. I think that really, really works for this movie quite a bit. And having that amazing cast and having them have fun, and, you know, it's kind of like, if you get everyone in Hollywood working at a top level, that will be enjoyable. They're like trained professionals doing this, but there's only so far you can go with that. And I think the end part with Ralph and that whole thing is kind of the thing, that the brick wall against making this like anything, in terms of when you start to really notice like, hey, the story's not necessarily here. I did quite actually like Gal Gadot in this, because it's like she's wearing her clothes from her character in Fast and Furious, but then she's basically Dominic Toretto, gender swapped. But she's still like, I think those jeans are exact jeans she had in Fast and Furious 6. And you could probably look into a metaphor of, you know, these kids go from like these like fun, more kiddish games and so forth to go into these more like kind of like violent games. And you could look into that, like, you know, kids leave, you know, animation behind and then get into more like violent movies and so forth as well, which I think, you know, Fast and Furious would be a perfect example of something that people would get into like that. So Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, I had a great time, because it's the first time I could go with my daughter to a movie, and that is an amazing special memory I'll always have. As a movie, I doubt I'll ever see it again. It's like, we had fun in the theater. I'm sure when she's older she'll want to see it again at some point. I'll be like, maybe let's just rewatch the first Wreck-It Ralph, which, despite what she says she had seen, I think maybe that is the classic that we'll get from it. This is just kind of like, Disney is able to churn out a really entertaining animated movie. And guess what? They did it again. They did it again with Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet. Of this kind of decade, it's probably one of the lesser ones, and it's one that just kind of gets away with it because of the charm and the fun that it is. And for the most part, it really does that very well. But in the end, I don't think it really has a point. Also, they straight up wasted Fix-It Felix and that whole thing. That was a little funny. Did they edit that out or something? So if you've seen Wreck-It Ralph 2 or Ralph Breaks the Internet and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And sorry to change of location. This is a weirder one. With a lot of baby. No more TV?
No TV.
No TV. Okay, I have to go, but I'll finish this review later, right? Can you say bye-bye to TV?
No bobbing TV.
What? No, you just say bye-bye to TV.
No bye.
Okay.
Book.
You don't want to say bye-bye?
No bye. Book.
No bye. That's rude. Come on, let's say bye-bye. Say bye-bye.
No.
No? Here, why don't you get on my lap? Say bye-bye.
No bye.
Okay. Well, anyway.